The 23rd of February. I'm Stephen Ridgway. There has been a noticeable uptick in the existence of fake ChatGPT apps used to push Windows and Android malware. So, unsurprisingly, given the current interest there is in ChatGPT, um, there is more demand than there is availability of time with the chatbots. So yes, you can you can just keep going to the site where if it's reached its maximum capacity, it says come back later. Or one of the things you can do is you can pay. I think it's $20 a month or something like that. In order to be prioritized in the queue effectively, and to reduce some of the limitations that that free access has. This has led to hackers, attacking groups, creating fake chat GPT apps. And pushing those apps on social media. The consequence of downloading one of the fake apps or using one of the fake apps is that you will get the usual malware, doing the usual things: credential stealing, information stealing, blah blah blah, the usual stuff that goes on. Frustratingly, some of these are being promoted via Facebook, and also there have been instances where malware has yet again been promoted on the Google Play Store. So, if you are interested in getting access to Chat GPT, definitely beware of things that are pretending to be apps that access it, that actually are much more likely to be just bits of malware. So the some of the sites look reasonably convincing. A lot of them don't, and a lot of the names are, whilst they may have chat and GPT and OpenAI in the URL, they're really obviously not the right thing. But a lot of people clicking on stuff are not going to look too closely at what the URL says, or in fact even go to find out what the real URL is. Which is an ongoing problem, one that cyber awareness training can help with, but will never be able to completely fix. So yeah, if you want to avoid installing malware on your device, but you do want to have access to Chat GPT, sign up on the website. Sign up on the genuine website, not downloading apps that may or may not be real. Also in the news today, the US military emails have been exposed via a cloud account. The US Department of Defense had an email server hosted in the cloud, which failed to have password protection applied to it for at least 2 weeks. It's been fixed; it's not there, and it's not available anymore. But it just goes to show that even those that should really know better sometimes make mistakes and things slip through. So this particular email server was hosted on Microsoft Azure's government cloud service, and was allegedly found to be wide open to public internet for a period of about 2 weeks before it was properly secured. The messages that have been seen from there include internal US military messages, certain amounts of sensitive personal information, the questionnaire that federal workers fill out as part of their security clearance purposes, which I think is That's probably a bit worrying if you were one of them. Um, the server was allegedly one of a group of email servers in use by the US Special Operations Command. Um, it just looks like it was misconfigured, and once spotted, it has been fixed. What's the point of bringing that one up? Well, it just goes to show that even organisations that are actually quite good at managing their cybersecurity compared to the rest of us can make mistakes. So if you are hosting stuff in cloud services, you know, make sure you know how they're configured. Would you know re- recommend regular vulnerability scans? I recommend regular checks against those sorts of databases where stuff that's open to the internet is are being recorded. Just keep an eye, understand your threat landscape, especially your external facing threat landscape, because you know the easiest stuff to attack is the stuff where you don't have to go and compromise something internal. You can just attack it from the outside, and the best things to attack are ones that don't actually have any protection on them. It's very common that mistakes creep in cloud environments. So configuring them to be properly secure is more complex than people realize, and yeah, these things can sneak through. So that's well, good that they dealt with it as soon as they found it. Bad that it got into that position in the first place. Don't let your organisation be the next one that hits the news for having unprotected stuff sat on cloud servers available to the public. And also on the subject of hosting stuff in cloud environments, hackers have stolen data center logins for around 2,000 companies from 2 data centers in Asia. Um, around 2,000 companies appear to have been involved in this, and it does appear that the attackers have had access to the credentials for over a year. Recently offered them for sale. Because they said whilst they'd used some of them, the sheer volume was more than they could cope with, so they were selling them on. Um, the data centers, now aware of this, have forced password changes on all customers at the start. In fact, at the start of this year, it's not been revealed exactly who the 2,000 companies are, but the list is likely to include Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alibaba, Goldman Sachs, and Walmart, because they're known to use, excuse me, they're known to use these particular data centers. This is a predictable attack, I would suspect. I mean, for a very long time, um, uh, there have been concerns about what happens below the layer that you have visibility on in your services. So, back in the colo days, yeah, all right, you had control over your own tin in the data center, and if you were really security focused, the organization I worked for was, you would have caged parts, dedicated caged parts of the data center, and the cages had to reach from the ceiling actually to the floor, going through the suspended flooring down to the raised flooring, all the way down to the concrete underneath. Any data pipes coming in or out of that cage would then have to be armored. Cabling, so on and so forth. You can take that stuff very seriously. But the trouble with all of that is that the data center provider does have access to the cage. So you are to some extent at the mercy of their processes for controlling and logging access into into these areas. Well, if you move that up a layer to cloud, you're taking services, let's say from Microsoft via Azure. You can ask questions around how they secure your data, where is your data, and they will give you to the best of their ability, honest answers about what visibility or access they have. But you still got to bear in mind that it's not actually them that generally run the underlying devices. The data centers they host their stuff in data centers. There are people in data centers who have access to things at a layer below what your cloud, the cloud provider can give you reassurance on. So we've still got the same problem. So I'm not surprised that we're seeing an attack based at compromising data center accounts, because armed with data center accounts, you do have visibility of and access to all sorts of things that are running across those data centers, especially in big colos. That could be very significant. So if you are thinking of using colos, as always, so take an old school approach and go to town on understanding how your data center secures your data and the access to things in their data center. If you are using cloud services, yeah, good luck getting the answers to that stuff, because I've never managed to get a decent answer from anybody, even through quite persistent questioning. Um, hey hum, that is the way of the world at the moment. But yeah, keep an eye out. Make sure you trust your data center providers. Make sure that you have confidence in your cloud providers, that they are managing their data centers or their data center providers well. That's all from me today. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again tomorrow.